Apparently, I have gone back to my incorrect neurosparkly uh, thing and opening page, and I will eventually have to get things straightened out. It's been a day like that. Okay, it's been a couple of days like that. So, you know, enjoy being neurosparkly, enjoy the intro. It will not be me talking every time. See? Oh, my word.
We'll get there.
We will get there. Oh, one
We
would
all
think
have
I
our
had
days.
never done this before. Like, yo, Daniel, nice to see you. Glad you're
Daniel.
here. My iced tea. Oh, a little bit of sugar, a little bit of caffeine. Life is good. And a whole lot of lipstick, apparently. So, hang on. There we go. So, how you been? Good.
Just, you know, I have tomorrow off work for my friend coming into town, so I'm getting excited. So, uh,
Nice.
I gotta get all my stuff packed and then check in at 3 p.m. at the hotel, which is like such an weird time, but like,
3 o'clock is normal for check-in at hotels.
yeah, they didn't have early. I was bummed. I was a little bit like, do you have early check-in? And they're like, not really. I was like, all right.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but yes.
All right. Hey, Eric, I'm glad you're here, bud. So we were supposed to have Mandy McGee on with us today as well. Unfortunately, they aren't feeling very well today, and as much as I'm having a hard time with computer things and all that kind of what, like I said, one would think I'd never done this before. Well, anyway, so Mandy was unable to join us this evening, and they will be here hopefully sometime in early April. That's kind of the hope and the plan so far. Um, they haven't answered my text, so I think they might be in bed, not feeling good. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
resting.
exactly. And that's exactly what you want to do
Something's been
when you're
like,
not feeling
they
well.
got COVID a couple weeks ago. It's just hanging on. And
Yeah.
well, both them and their partner. And then it's like, then you got to try to get up and like do people things and
Yes. Yeah.
treating people when
At
you
least they weren't
feel
going to work.
gross is just not a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. We do it, but like it makes it harder almost because it's like you're not at your normal speed, and then you're like very conscious of the fact that you're like
Yeah. I'm sorry I
using
have to
all
take.
your energy to get through just the work day. I feel like that's the hard thing about getting sick when you get older. It just like hits you harder, or you're already immune compromised, which yeah. Oh, thank you, Crystal. I believe this is one of the ones I made with open art. My cozy little witch cottage background. I love the idea of a fireplace mentally, but like physically, I understand I could not take care of one. Like I would
No.
need somebody that could come in and like
Yeah.
do all the proper care for it because they're beautiful, but they're a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of work.
Well, they're a lot of work if they are wood burning. If they aren't wood burning, if they're like a gas fireplace, which you can get some really nice gas ones these days,
Oh yeah.
then they're not so
And
bad.
they make the with wood burning ones, they make special logs where the smoke that goes up there like cleans it out, but it's still just like a lot
That's
of
right.
work. Yeah. A lot of people actually have been replacing their in-home fireplaces with electric or gas
They
ones
have. Yeah.
because they're easier to take care of, but they still provide the heat. But there's nothing quite like the crackle of an actual Yule log.
I know. Oh, what I have are woodwick candles. They give you that crackle that you would have in with a fire, but
Oh
it's in
yeah,
a
I love
candle.
those.
It's very safe. And oh, that's okay. So we have Eric, we have Rudy at 7:02 p.m. We have Echo, who is Chloe the Chewini. And glad to see everybody tonight. This is
Oh
great.
hi, Echo. That's a cute name.
Isn't it? That's the name of her dog.
I know
Chloe
she
the
posted the
Chewini.
cutest video of her, was it turning a circle, or I don't know, she was so cute. It popped up in my feed recently. I was like, yeah,
Oh, really?
puppies.
There we go. Okay. So yeah, it's just a really nice little candle. I don't know if I can get it anywhere that you can hear it crackle, but it's a really nice smelling candle. That one's actually from Wally World.
I was cleaning out boxes that I never unpacked 2 years ago when I moved here.
Yeah.
Because I'll finally have places for stuff. And I found my box of candles, mind you, of all
Ooh.
different scents of candles. And I
Oh,
opened and I was
fun.
like, whoa, those are some candles.
Yep. You have to be careful these days, right? Like I'm so used to not smelling anything that when I go somewhere and there's anything to smell, it's like overwhelming because so many people are scent sensitive that
Yeah.
we can't have a lot of aroma around us. So, oh well.
I love my candles.
Mm-hmm.
My landlord's like, just don't drop it on the floor and burn down the house. You can have candles. I was like, yes.
Well, see, that's why I also really like the kind in the jars.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, like,
all mine are in jars, or the only freestanding ones I have are the ones I use for my pagan altar, because they're specific colors and I put them in a specific way.
Okay.
And so those are also the only ones that aren't scented.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's cheaper to buy unscented candles.
Absolutely. And they're the tapers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the tall candles.
Or pillars, like the little pillar candles that you see at church, like when they have a little remembrance, the squat little guys that are kind of triangle shaped.
Triangle shape. I'm not
Shaped.
familiar with.
They're round. They're not like tapers that are like tall. They're
Right.
like tiny.
Yes. Yeah. It's like a jar candle. It's like a jar candle, but it's just the candle.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes. I love scented candles.
Hi, Rudy.
Hi, Rudy. So, a disclaimer. Tonight's episode might become a little political.
Yes.
But, and actually, I'm going to put up a banner here. Here we go. We are here to love and learn. Please be respectful when you ask a question or comment. Okay?
Yes.
And
especially because this topic is very
it's sensitive.
It's personal for me in a lot of ways. And so because of that, my bluntness is going to just be like way more
blunty.
Blunt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because,
okay.
I think especially when it comes to the nuances of the community, is like, I don't think people understand how many divisions there are within the community, the LGBT community itself. It's like they see all these terms and put everyone under an umbrella, but like people are people and don't get along and want to tell people what definitions are, and with identity that's not as cut and dry. Like,
no, it is tougher. Actually, if you do not say LGBTQS+, if LGBTQ2S+, up here in Canada, people get mad at you.
Yeah, and see, there weren't a lot of terms when I was growing up
Oh, no. And if
Because
I
like
used the word queer, you'd get slapped in with a closed fist. Like it would have been
in the
absolutely the
80s,
worst.
the right, yeah, like the 70s and
Yeah.
80s, that wasn't really like
70s, 80s, and 90s. It wasn't really until the 2000s that it became
that we
reclaimed.
returned the power of the word to
That's right.
describe people
It's like
in a
people of color.
positive way. Yeah.
It's like people of color calling an Asian instead of just Asian American. You're just Asian because you may not be from America, and your culture may not be Chinese. So not every Asian person is Chinese. Not every Black person is from Africa. So you can't even say African American. They are Black. It is a skin color. It's a tone. Again, it has been
Well, and
reclaimed.
also too, like another thing that is important to realize is that different ethnic cultures treat LGBT plus differently. Like there's different pressures, different levels of isolation that come with that. Like, so for example, one of my friends is, I want to say, originally from Pakistan, or his family was, and he didn't come out to his parents or his father until 4 years ago. Okay. Because he knew that if his dad accepted him, they would disconnect from the part of their family that's still in Pakistan.
That's right. Because hello, the source. Nice to see you.
Because his dad supports him and his partner, but not the Pakistani side of the family. And he felt this pressure to hide it because he was like, I don't want to make my dad lose his family.
Exactly. Yeah.
But at the end, I was like, well, I don't want to lose you again. Like, because he's had his struggles with unaliving attempts.
The ideation
and attempts.
And attempts. Yeah.
Like in the last few years. And that's kind of what I've been dealing with in the background of being offline for the couple months I have been, is I've had those 3 a.m. phone calls with several friends from the different parts of the community.
Right.
Feeling like hopeless.
Absolutely.
That were, I mean, in the, if you comparatively, if you look at the civil rights movement and how that started in the late 40s, early 50s.
Yep.
Because integration really pushed in the 50s and 60s. But in 2025, there's still...
And there always will be division and prejudice and stigma. Yeah, absolutely.
And they rebranded some of them, like some factions rebranded, but in comparison, we're saying in the late 70s, early 80s is when the LGBT civil rights and activism had to force its way into the mainstream because of the AIDS epidemic.
That's right.
And
AIDS had been around for a long time by then.
From AIDS were LGBT plus. I'm just saying that it was more prevalent amongst that group because up to that point they were hidden.
That's right.
And they have shown there are people from the 20s as far back as the 1800s that were LGBT plus.
Do you know the origin of the HIV virus, of the actual virus?
No. I feel like I probably know the lie version that's been told to the public so often.
Okay, I'll tell you what I understand it to be, and you tell me what you've been told. Okay? So
Okay.
what I have been told is that it was because of, it was a virus that had been seen for ages and ages and ages in monkeys. And when they were testing the polio vaccine, when they were developing it, they were doing it in a place in Africa that had those monkeys around. And they were, they would get the monkeys who were healthy, and then they would test the polio vaccine. Well, one of those monkeys, their blood got into the polio vaccine system because somehow it was tested and it became part of it wrecked a batch, basically. So not everybody who had polio vaccine got it, but everybody who got that batch of polio vaccine got it.
Yeah, and to be clear, it was the blood, because
Yes.
like
Yes.
the simian immunodeficiency virus, or
There we go.
SIV, yeah.
Yes.
Basically, chimpanzees, I believe, are the closest to us.
Yep. Yep.
And when we were like testing these vaccines, diluted blood got into
Yep.
transferred to us a couple of years before 1981, and then
Right.
out the timing was right, I guess, and in
Oh, yeah.
1981 it kind of ran with it. But the problem is also a lot of people in other communities, like BDSM is also something that wasn't socially accepted, that had to be like done behind closed doors, or and people doing drugs and all this stuff. It's like anytime you're taking infections and you're putting on top of that like poverty or access to
That's right. Healthcare.
trigger warning drugs. I
Yep.
didn't want to say that because I know there's people in our community who've lost people
Injectables.
to addiction and stuff. But
Yep.
when you're doing that, and now people are injecting heroin, or not having clean needles, or not having
Sharing.
access to clean health care or
Yep.
affordable care, it piles on top of each other. So now people are getting sick. We don't know what's wrong. They didn't know what AIDS was at the time, how it was affecting you internally.
Exactly. Yeah.
And nowadays it's not a cure. It's still considered a treatment, because what it does is it gets you down to not transferable.
Right.
Meaning you still have the gene and the virus, you just don't transfer it to other people. Like once you reach
it's
that
non-transferable. Yeah.
non-transferable status, which is huge, because in the 80s it was devastating. I mean, that's why we have the musical Rent was written by the guy who wrote it. His friends were dying of AIDS, and I believe he actually passed away before the night before the opening night of his play went on stage.
That's terrible.
Of AIDS, and that's why when you see them sing the song, like, so there was a song that was supposed to be sung at the end of the play, but because he passed before it went on stage, the actors decided to tribute to the writer and sing it at the beginning.
Which song was that? I haven't seen it.
It's the one that talks about like how many minutes,
seconds in a day. Yeah. Okay.
How many seconds in a day? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like it's so comparatively, again, like civil rights for the Black community started in like the late 40s, early 50s, but we didn't really start having a consciousness of even like lesbian and gay people or rights, or how the world was being affected, until the 80s, and it's 2025. So like comparatively,
It's a short.
It's
Still brand new.
and you know, there are some names out there that are pretty well known, like the Boys Don't Cry movie made for Brandon Tina. I mean, Matt Shepard just had his ashes put to rest after.
That was such a terrible, terrible thing.
And yeah, it's just heartbreaking. And the thing that you can understand is it's not that there weren't gay people before people came out and spoke about it. It's that a lot of them, to stay safe, married as a straight couples.
Right.
Had kids, did the whole like image of a
have children
life and
yeah.
But what that does is it makes it harder to then say, but I was, you know, and there are still laws on the books these days. I know I'm kind of everywhere, but it's going to tie in. So, like, if I was in the 40s, I would have to be like pretty quiet about loving women, because if it came out that I was lesbian, I could, well, if I was in the 40s, I also probably couldn't have my own job or bank account. So there's that.
There is that.
But also, there's still laws on the books in a lot of states that haven't been stricken that allow you to be fired for not being straight. Now,
those have been taken off the books in Canada. I'm so grateful that we have. There are some real benefits to having a system where it is the full federal system versus giving so much power to each individual entity. There's benefits to having power to each individual entity. Don't get me wrong.
That's why it was so devastating to have the federal government start attacking the federal protection for gay marriage. That took, hang on, 80, 90, 2000, like 7 decades. To push through. And that's the thing, is it's been now at this point found out that during Hitler's time in Nazi Germany, they had trigger warning, dark stuff. The Nazis did some horrible testing on human beings. However, it was discovered even back then that this isn't a choice.
No.
Of all the horrible tests they did on people, I guess the one, I don't want to call it a silver lining because I don't agree with what they did, but at the same time, there was even studies back then hinting that it's in our DNA. We don't know everything about our DNA. They've only coded less than half of it. The double helix is all that's coded, and there's all this gray matter in our DNA. And they're starting to realize, like, it's especially with the science of being trans, shows through brain scans. So you cannot fudge a brain scan, guys.
No, you can't.
Like when they do an MRI or a scan of your brain with your neurons and everything, they have actually scientifically shown that people who are trans were born in the wrong body physically, like internally, and actually through tracing back to parents of mainly born as female people, they have shown that a small percentage, maybe I want to say a quarter of, but that could be too large because I'm not looking at the study right now, but a certain percentage of trans people were born intersex. and they were chosen to be female at birth
Right.
because it's easier to remove that organ than it would be the reverse.
Exactly. Yes.
So not only are we now saying that, you know, intersex people who, in my mind, should be part of the plus community, because, again, that's not typical. It's more common than you would
Exactly.
think.
Actually,
it's
I had a
fascinating.
friend in Britain who was telling me that in the hospital where they work, at least twice a month, an intersex baby is born.
Mm-hmm.
Like that has both forms of genitals.
And think of what that means internally, chemically, is that intersex people are not going to show the same levels of hormones that somebody born as a single gender shows.
That's
so, for example, I was born female at birth, just female. I'm actually agender, but I use they, them pronouns because professionally it's a lot easier to have a pronoun in general than no pronoun at all. But it's interesting because mentally and chemically, that means that not only were these children not given the choice, right? Because I mean, being born intersex and growing up intersex can be rather difficult because, again, our culture cares way too much about gender and genitals. Like, so for example, if you're intersex, which high school locker room do you go in?
Yes.
This comes up a lot. Which bathroom are you going to use? This comes up a lot in the transgender specific conversation is, oh, we don't want creepy people in our bathrooms. I'm like, guys, being creepy and being LGBTQ plus are not synonymous.
No, it's not.
As proven by all the creepy people who are straight. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of the rhetoric that came from the 70s and 80s. Like, oh, there's these creepy people who skulk around in the dark who are just going to like disrespect your boundaries. And I don't know why they did a lot of ads being like gay people kidnap children. It's really bizarre. There's some really weird like anti-LGBT ads from like the 60s.
Yeah.
When you dig into it.
It's because of the children who've been SA'd in their captivity, right?
And so that's why it's so difficult right now with where we're at. I've heard they're now encouraging parents of intersex children to leave them and let the child decide. Yes, because again, right, like self-agency is really important. There are more and more places with washrooms that you can completely close and lock the door without anyone. Yes, yep. They're like single person use. Yes. Usually, actually, they have both gender markers on the door. Like it can be a men's or a women's.
Yeah.
And then it's just only one person can go in at a time.
Yeah. I've been in restaurants where they have, like, you know, how a bathroom will have lots of stalls, but each stall goes floor to ceiling on all four sides. So it doesn't matter the gender, and it has like a frosted glass. So if somebody's getting assaulted, you can break in, that kind of thing. It doesn't matter if it's because they are LGBTQ2S plus. In Canada, they want us to say that whole blah, blah,
what was the other part? LGBTQ
2S plus.
2S plus?
Yeah, two-spirited for Indigenous.
Plus. Oh, that's good inclusion.
Yeah.
I kind of, there's so many terms these days. And And what I try to do is just, for me, growing up, we didn't have that.
Yeah.
even though I was in high school in the early 2000s, like 2004 to 2008, there still really wasn't words for how I personally felt. So I knew early, I did not come out till I was 21, and my dad was like, "Oh, I figured." You know, up here they call them family washrooms mainly, so that, yes, because men who are single dads don't have baby changing stations in men's restrooms. This drives me crazy. My dad told so many stories of how when he would take my sister places as a single dad, he would basically just have to change her like on a bench, because there was
on the floor
or like, he's like, I'm not putting my baby on a men's bathroom floor in this restaurant. It's
exactly
gross.
Yeah,
like,
that is gross.
This is my child. Like, we're not. And see, I'm of the mind too, like, I don't have it with me, I've misplaced it, but I had a pin for a while that was just essentially, it was an image that was like, hey, I'll go to the bathroom with you. And guys,
cool.
I don't give a flying monkey's butt if you're a trans man and you need a friend to go to the bathroom with you. I have peed in many men's bathrooms because I'm not waiting in line. So I will go into whatever bathroom or locker room. Well, maybe not locker room. They won't let me in the locker room, but any bathroom you need me to go in with you, I'll go, because it's about, right, most of the people in, at least that I know, have had to go through so many legal hoops to even.
Oh, absolutely.
So, for example, my best friend in this whole world, in our wonderful state where we live, he had to go to an LGBTQ2S plus therapist. Well, because he's like, I want a diagnosis, and I need the person to be knowledgeable about trans issues. He had to go to them for 2 years before he could get diagnosed with gender dysphoria. Then once he was diagnosed with gender dysphoria and lived, I think it was, I want to say 4 to 6 months, a year.
Okay.
After he went for 2 years to just get diagnosed with gender dysphoria. Then he had to live an entire year presenting as the gender he is.
Right.
Before he could start hormone treatment. And then before he could before he could get his top surgery, he had to publish his new name, like his intent to change his name, in the newspaper.
Oh my.
Do a heist to get his original birth certificate so that he could change all of his names and gender markers on his birth certificate before he could do his top surgery.
Wow.
So it's like hoop after hoop after hoop after hoop. And then by the point that he's like at now, where he's like having the opposite problem, he passes so well that people don't believe he's trans, which is what you want, right?
Yes.
Like initially when you start this process, most of the people who go on hormones for years, they want to, what they call, go stealth, which is you wouldn't know unless I told you, right?
Right.
However, he's in this weird zone now where it's like, I pass this, like, people don't think I am. And then, so now if I come out, it's actually like, coming out is not a one-time thing. And it's also not necessarily safe for your profession, like your job. Like I said, a lot of states haven't enforced the laws, but now with the climate, I'm not sure that they would, they wouldn't be held accountable for it if they did discriminate to that level.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing is too, is like, it's a safety issue now. Even
Mhm.
for me, like, even if I had a girlfriend, like when I had a girlfriend, I worked at a place where I was like, I don't know that I could tell them that this person I'm showing them pictures of is my girlfriend, because I don't know that it's safe to
Right.
do that. And confronted with that feeling of like, they're like, oh, just bring your work, like we're having a work party where we get to bring our spouses. And I was like, I'm not even out of this job. Like, it's not even, could it even be safe to bring
Mhm.
her and be like, yeah, we're together? Because then, you know, because if you're in a situation where people don't know that you are, so like, I don't call myself bisexual because I don't fall for the gender, I fall for the person. I'm more demisexual, so like, I have to have a friendship first, and then the first thing I fall for is the person. And then my brain goes, oh yeah, now you're a hot girl. But like, when I first meet someone,
Yeah.
the first thing I notice isn't like sexual at all. It's like their personality. It's like how we click
No,
as
exactly.
beings, you know? And so for me, it's these questions of like, why is my right to have privacy in my relationships
Mhm.
anyone's business? Why is it anyone's business if me and my girlfriend want to get, you know, want to have kids? Like,
That's
why
right.
is it anyone's business how, like, we raise our family? Or this is just an example, I don't have a girlfriend or a kid, but like, nobody is putting this level of derision and stress on straight couples. And I've met a lot
Nope.
of people I love. I have friends who are very dear to me whose parents should have never had children.
Mm.
And I say this because I've seen what happened to my friends.
Mhm.
You know, the level of like neglect or abuse that I know has been faced by people who were in a traditional family,
Absolutely. Yep.
who had traditional values.
Yeah.
You know, because I think that's the thing, right? Is like, the only reason I would involve myself, even anonymously, in anybody else's situation, and I have in the past, is if I'm 100% certain there's a violence occurring. If there's DV or even like
Yes.
neglect or
Yes.
danger to the level that I've witnessed several times in my life. And then I'm right there making it my side
Then you make it
eye.
your business.
Then I make it my business. But
Yes.
there's this level right now of fear that people are having, that they're like, are they just going to delegitimize my 7-year marriage because they've decided that we're less? Like, and mind you, this is after Stonewall. This is after Pulse nightclub, where some guy walked into a nightclub and did a horrific shooting
Yes.
of people. Like, it gives me chills, like, just talking about
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
And, you know, I always ask my friends, like, I dated somebody who was early on in their transition, male to female, and we were dating, and I was like, how do you want me to react in public?
Good question.
Because
very good question.
Bigots are going to be there. And I'm of the mind that there's only so far kindness can go when belligerent people don't drop the issue. So I would ask friends, I'd be like, okay, how far are we taking this? Do you want me to try the 3 rules and then we call the cops? Do you want me to like verbally, like, because I will verbally fight for the people I care about.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I could physically too, but like, I'd prefer not to take it that far. But like, I ask people, like, what's your preference in a situation where I can clearly see that you're being othered or discriminated
Exactly.
against? Like, what do you want me to do as your partner or your friend? Because I think that's the thing, right? Being an ally is uncomfortable. I want to throw this
It
out
is.
to the people who are legitimately wanting to stand up and fight with and for their friends. You are going to be uncomfortable. There's
Mhm.
a lot that your, friends in the community probably hide from you to spare you pain and anger and injustice.
Mhm.
But if you're prepared to actually sit with that discomfort, like learn what your privileges are and be mad about it.
Yeah.
I don't look as androgynous as I feel inside. Like if I could be David Bowie levels of people don't know what
Yep.
I am and I'm pretty much an alien, I would prefer that, but I look very feminine. So if I had to like go back in the closet and like
You
keep
could.
myself safe and dress like
Yeah.
super I could do it. I would
You'd
hate it.
yourself.
Like it's even talking about the possibility of having to do that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want it though.
Yeah, like the whole fist happens. It's like,
Yeah.
like
And
the
so it's
Hulk.
like,
Yeah,
there's going to be moments where you will be confronted with things.
absolutely.
And it's kind of like with grief, sitting with people's grief, right? Same concept. Oh, we lost her. Kim, where'd you go? Let me check in with chat here. See if I got any.
I hit a button.
Okay.
That was me. I hit a button.
I was like, she's here.
Have I mentioned that technology hates me today?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. See, I'm very passionate about this topic.
Oh, and do you know what? It's important that you're passionate about it. More people should be more passionate about it.
Crystal's like, just keep
Just
talking.
keep
Just
talking.
keep going.
Yeah. And even though we're talking about LGBTQ2S plus rights, I've gotten kind of used to saying the whole thing.
I need to put the 2S in my brain too, because that's another, we were saying earlier about cultural differences.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I don't know that I have a lot of people from indigenous groups. I'm trying not to say Native American because it's
indigenous. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been trying to like switch my language, but it's like because there's different tribes. There's different histories of their struggles and all that, but
yep.
And
it's around the world.
People to me show that you're not choosing it.
That's right.
I want to pose a question. Like, why would
ma'am.
I choose? Why would I wake up one day and go from my white female comfortable privilege to embrace and throw myself into an identity where now I have to defend who I love, why I love, how I love. Like I've had people ask really uncomfortable questions, so I started answering them with. I had a guy once when I was out with my girlfriend, like really pushed the, well, how do you have relations question, and I was like, how do you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. They teach that in Sec Ed.
Yeah.
But how do you? What position do you like?
Yeah. Where do you find yourself getting turned on?
So red. And got so mad. And I was like, it is still disrespectful for you to ask me these questions. There's not this weird bubble where like there's this assumption that LGBTQ2S plus people are like out there with our preferences and some people are. More power to you if you're like that much of a sexual being. Good, but not everyone is. Not everyone
and not
likes
everybody
to talk
wants
about
to be
it.
around somebody who is that out there sexually. right? Like
Yeah.
doing hair for a lot of years, depending on the hair salon where you're working, we are worse in the back room than you'll find any guy's locker room, because we not only talk about how, when, where, we talk about how much, we talk about what it was like, we talk about the proportions, we talk about everything. And, it just,
Right.
oh, I know, right? It was just everything. So,
But
yeah,
it's that
sorry,
question
dude,
of
it's
like,
not all about the pickle.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or like, just think about it too, is there's this, one.
What you looking for? Okay, you are now quiet. I cannot hear you.
I know my roommate was asking something really quick, so I just muted.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But like, talking about, yes, about that. Sorry, I had to like remember what we were saying. It's also, it's devastating to think the pressure it's put on young people.
Mm-hmm.
I do not recommend you look up some of the statistics I keep my eyes on, because it's last year alone, there were way too many disappearances or murders or whatever of trans people, and specifically, but also guys, our youth.
Yeah. My daughter's best friend and roommate is trans. They are gender non-binary. They have been mistaken for both male and female, and they love that.
Oh, what's their secret? I need to know.
I don't know. I think it's the hairstyle.
And there's also there's divisions within the community, and like with anything else, of like what constitutes truly being any one identity. And in my mind, it's so individual. Like, I have no need for my gender identity to go on hormones.
Right.
Now, I was born a female, so I mean, I might in the future need hormone treatments when my insides go psychotic and I fall down the pit of doom that's menopause. But like,
it ain't great.
Yeah, because I can't avoid that,
You kind of can if you get like a hysterectomy or something.
But I remember this stuck out to me. Trigger warning, teen unaliving.
That's why that whole trigger warning banner is just going to go. And I have wonderful mods who, if they see somebody being awful, kick them out or tell me quick. And so
Cosmic.
Yeah, Cosmic's here. Noise Opera's here. We've got we've got Davey here. Who else have we got? We've got Misha. Sunrise Dawn had to go.
Hi, Opera.
Yes, Noise Opera's here.
Oh, Ned. Hi, Ned. I saw you come in. But I was going to say, the one that got me really upset is, I mean, if you were online during this time, Leila Alcorn was a girl from the South in the U.S., trans, growing up in an extremely Bible Belt area, and she was not accepted by her family, to the point where, through her own plan, she basically planned her unaliving and then planned for her social media accounts to put out her unaliving letter to the internet.
Oh, wow.
Through Tumblr, because she couldn't escape her situation.
Yeah.
Guys, it's effed up. Yeah, I'm getting emotional.
Nope, that's okay. Eric has a good point here. He has a cousin who's gay, and I still love him no matter what. I have a nephew who's gay. I have other family members who are along the spectrum of wherever you want to put things, you know?
But yeah, it's when I was online when that happened.
Oh, wow.
I actually like because I followed a lot of content of LGBT creators who, by the way, are being suppressed by YouTube.
Yep.
Since at least 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Like not only their content, but creators who've been on this platform for over 10 years, who are in the LGBT spaces, doing advocacy, doing awareness, are being suppressed by the algorithm. Mm-hmm. So I want to, it's even within this platform that we use that people are facing these things. And when that situation happened, I was like, this can't be real, right? Like,
right.
But because she was a minor and the way she did her thing included a public aspect.
Right.
That public aspect triggered a police investigation and then tied all the pieces together. And I'm purposely not going into details here because if you know anything about unaliving statistics, you never talk about the way that people did it or go into detail. But it's absolutely devastating. What does the 2 and the S stand for? Oh, two-spirit people from indigenous cultures.
That's right. And we, in Canada, we have such a variety, or not a variety, we have such a vast indigenous population. And we have become so much stronger in advocacy for anybody who's been othered over the years. It has been so nice. And don't get me wrong, there's still a ton to do. But man, it's so nice to be able to say, yeah, we've gotten someplace and we need to. So as we're talking, by the way, I am listening, I am talking, I am, but I'm looking for a particular infographic that my daughter showed me. And
from how I understand it, it's in indigenous cultures, it's people who embody both masculine and feminine spirits.
Yes.
And like within their own tribe or community, they're like considered a third, for lack of a better term, gender. Now, if my understanding, obviously, if anybody is indigenous or understands that more, like, please correct, because obviously,
please,
life is learning and we're all still learning. And like we said, like there's scientific, medical, cultural aspects to all of these identities. And like there's I think it's important to even talk to your friends who aren't white.
Yeah.
Ask them, what's your experience as somebody who's not white, who, from your culture, from how you were raised to see yourself, because that's the other thing is like internalized phobia is often present with people from cultures where there's more of a heavy hand of control over like privileges I have as a white person in America.
For sure. Yeah.
I was adopted by family that was middle class. I had a good education. Like for the most part, I'm not visibly, well, now that I dress more comfortably to like myself and I'm more out about who I am, sure. But before that point, it was like I looked very middle of the road for lack of a better way to describe it, like Christian traditional person.
WASP.
Yeah. And
White
now,
Anglo-Saxon Protestant. Yeah.
yeah, pretty much, because I grew up Lutheran Presbyterian, which are two
Absolutely.
branches of Protestantism. So yeah. And now I'm very much still white.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to change. But I'm like more pagan, and you know, I embrace more of my like gender neutral vibe and the way I am inside. But the thing is, when you have all these pressures on you of what your society says you should do and you should look like and you should believe, and you don't fit that internally, sometimes you turn hatred towards yourself.
Oh,
because you feel like out of place. You're like, I'm not a piece of this puzzle.
Right.
I'm like the centerpiece of an entirely different jigsaw that's not even in this house. You know, that's how it felt to me inside before all of these terms existed that I use now. But before I knew what before I knew what demisexual was, which meant like I needed to have a strong trust and friendship with people before being able to be romantic or even have that spark with somebody. I was like, well, I don't fit all these TV shows just showing kids being like instantly attracted to people. Or I was like, I don't fit just liking boys. Because I don't see the gender, I see the person first. But there wasn't a word for that when I was growing up. And so
no,
you have to figure out like who you are as a being, as a child. You have all these pressures, and then on top of that, people have so many complications, and it can really like mess up a kid, especially in their formative years, if they don't have the support to experiment with their thought process.
Yeah.
Like when people say, "Oh, how do you know that you're bisexual?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "How do you know you're straight?"
Exactly. Yeah.
Because everything in society tells you to be straight, but how do you know as an individual that you are individually straight?
Right. I'm showing a page here on the website I found it on. I put the link in the chat. And this is primary and secondary sex determinations. So we just assume, or people in certain political parties are assuming there's XX, XY, and that's it. There are so many chromosomal differences that are possible. And I had no idea about this. This isn't the infographic I was looking for, but it's a great webpage. So if you want to study this a little bit more thoroughly, if you want to read more fully, click the link in the chat. I can try to put that link in the description of the video for after this is done. But yeah, I'm looking here, Cosmic and Misha is talking about privilege. Heinz 57 and have no clue where I come from. It sucks not knowing which box I should fit in. And absolutely.
Yeah, it does, because that's another part of identity that's been unique for me is I was adopted by my biological aunt.
Yep.
Okay, I was Harry Pottered without the extreme abuse and being locked under the staircase. Okay, like I said it that like that to be a little jokey, but like so.
Okay,
to
Crystal,
me,
I'm sorry,
like,
I have to post this one. It's just too funny. As for me, I say bye, as I'm not completely sure if I'd even go with a guy. but I'm also not sure if I'd go with a girl either. I'm more of a DIY.
DIY. Oh my God, I love that. Do it yourself.
Oh, sweetheart, you are so
Well,
funny.
that's
I
the
love
other
you.
question too, is the binary is a concept that was created by society, which, as she kind of showed with the chromosomes and how our DNA works, like even within the trans community, there's
Mhm.
an argument of, well, you're not really trans if you're gender nonconforming.
Yeah.
But I'm like, but why? Because the people that I know who have been lucky enough to be able to transition with hormones, or either find a way to like blend in to how they want to look, it's
Mhm.
like that still falls into people's binary, right? Like you look
Yeah.
male,
Yeah.
but to the person inside, it's like, why are they trying to delegitimize people who are like, well, I am trans because I did transition from male to female or the reverse. But I also don't want to use gendered pronouns.
Right.
So
See,
then
with
I
my daughters,
wouldn't be binary if I
right.
don't want to use the gendered pronouns that are binary.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, my daughter's roommate, who is non-binary, is also aromantic. She's ace, so asexual, and non-romantic. And so for her, it is just
Oh, yeah.
simply, I am going to love human beings as human beings, and genitalia be damned. You know, it just doesn't matter. And I'm not going to touch it anyways.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
And
no
did you
big
know,
deal.
like, being aromantic and demisexual are technically on a similar
Mhm.
sliding scale, for lack of a better word, because
Yep.
it's like, okay, I'm not like super sexual, but I'm not
No.
sexual.
Yeah. No, she is. They are. I try so hard. Okay.
That's it. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to say really quick is a lot of people, like, Kim just now will be like, sorry, I'm trying. I'm like, you're trying.
Yeah.
That's more than a lot of people give. That's more than a lot of people's own families sometimes. And this is another thing that heavily impacts the LGBT community is family. I'm losing my words here. When you cut them off because they're dangerous. I guess like a lot of people, some people in the community, they're like, well, I don't talk to my parents because they're not safe.
Yeah. Sometimes
For one
parents aren't
reason or
safe.
another. And like, it's heartbreaking to think that there's
It is awful.
disconnecting. Thank you. Yes. I was like, the word for when you're not connected, like disconnected maybe.
Yep.
But it's like, I love my best friend. My
Yep.
son had top surgery. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm so happy for him. That must have been
No
like
doubt.
the most euphoric moment.
That's exactly what my daughter's roommate wants to do, is have top surgery and then don't worry about anything else. They just don't want to be seen. They can't bind because that triggers them. So it is difficult. So
that's
they
tough.
simply wear a lot of really loose clothing. They have very angular features. So passing as male, female, whatever is a lot easier. And like I said, it's a lot to do with
And
hairstyle.
that's the thing too, is these surgeries are expensive.
Well, in Canada, it can be at least partially, in some places, it can be partially paid for. If you're psychiatrist, if you go through the whole
Yes.
psychiatry
That's what I'm saying.
thing,
The hoops we talked about earlier, where you've gone to the therapist and
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. Like, I think also because top surgery is also like a double mastectomy.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there could be a lot of reasons aside from gender that people would do that as well. But that's another thing, is like some of these other surgeries that are required in other countries, required for you to fully transition, like as in your government won't let you change your IDs unless you get both. It really walls off people's ability to live authentically as themselves, because again, it's not just the surgery that you have to pay for. You have to pay for like recovery.
Yes.
You know, not everybody is blessed with an easy recovery process. Like sometimes things go wrong, or you have to go back and you get things fixed. And yeah.
So for Barb, in her son's case, she paid for the top surgery because there was a 5-year wait. Exactly. It's like, people are not going to like that I'm going to use this. Like, people aren't going to like that I'm going to use this analogy, but it's like bariatric surgery. It's not the easy way out. There's a long wait list, and it is life-saving.
It is. And I just want to say really quickly to Barbie, and it's not, I will preface this, I'm saying this because my best friend's parents are terrible, not supportive people. But I just want to highlight, like, it's amazing that you really stepped forward and showed unconditional love, and that you were able to assist with that cost and that support, because a lot of times I think part of the fear people have about going through these things is like, well, I don't have a supportive family, or I don't have like, for me, my BFF, like, he disconnected when we first lived together, and then tried to reconnect and had to re-disconnect. So there's a whole emotional, mental level, as well as physical, that goes with this life. And it's like, well, yes, it's an individual's choice whether they want to go through surgeries. It's not, being who they are is not a choice. Like, you are who you are.
Right.
Does that make sense the way I'm saying that?
It does.
It made sense in my head.
I'm just going to look at Davy here for a moment. Asexual means no one, but still okay pleasing yourself. And Davy says she's been Googling. That is actually not what I've heard from people in the community. From what I understand from people I've spoken to, now this may be Google's answer right there. Okay, I get that. But from what I've heard from people in the community is ace means not even wanting to. Like, there's just no desire. There's nothing.
And that would be like one end of the asexual. Again, like, there's
there's
spectrum.
A
so I guess on the other side would be maybe demi, because like, I'm okay with, but
see, now this is where I would be confused. Celibacy is no act at all. See, to me, that there's no interpersonal act. There might be
celibacy doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have sexual motivation or attraction to somebody. Like we've seen in stories with priests and stuff who have a celibate lifestyles, right? That's the most extreme example I could think of.
Yeah.
But it's like, celibacy doesn't, how to put this? Yeah, I think it's not celibacy is not a sexual orientation. It's a choice to not have sex. Does that make sense? Whereas I feel like being asexual is a sexual identity where more.
I guess in my brain, And
Like
this is just in my
I
brain.
wouldn't, but I could go celibate if I wanted to. I could decide I don't want to have sex anymore. But that's not like a sexual identity.
Right. See, in my
In the
brain,
same way.
asexual is I don't want it versus non-gender or non-binary, which is I don't have a gender.
Yeah.
So the difference between
there's
sex and gender,
yes, exactly. Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the important thing to do is like labeling is mainly there, I think, to help society
Mm-hmm.
be more comfortable with the fact that things are fluid. I kind of look at everything as something that's fluid, right? Like gender identity is fluid. Sexual motivation or attraction is fluid. It
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to fit any one singular box or multiple boxes your entire life or even
Yeah.
into tomorrow. Like you could,
Yeah.
you know,
No, I have a friend whose grandmother couldn't look at them the same way because they came out as being homosexual. Now, the grandmother, I sat and I had a conversation with them because it's like, okay, so this grandmother was saying, well, this person's been kind of an outcast their whole life. So it's really just the gay community that has embraced them. And that's the only reason is because they've been so embraced by this community. And I'm like, okay, so how old were you when they told you you had to be attracted to men? Well, what do you mean? Well, you're attracted to men, right? Yeah. Have you always been? Well, as far as I know. Well, how old were you when people told you you had to be? Well, it never came up. So, okay, so how old does this person have to be told that they have to be attracted to the same gender and legitimately be attracted to that same gender or to any gender or whatever? And that really made that grandmother think, because it is so much more open, it's so much more allowed to be talked about, non-taboo. I guess it's less taboo these days to talk about it, to understand it, and that sort of thing. Whereas in, say, my parents' generation, the baby boomers, that kind of stuff, oh my word, that's that was a whole nother concept to them. Just the idea that anybody could be other than the typical nuclear Leave It to Beaver family.
yeah. And I would pose the question, why does a gender or sexual identity make you think the person you love is not the same person?
Mm-hmm.
They still like the same music, they still read the same book, they still have the same memories they did yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why is it different? Yep. I know a guy who identifies as a female cartoon fox, but I don't judge. Yeah.
But that's the thing too, is I think there's this feeling of humans want to feel comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I pose this to people, I'm like, okay, so clownfish can gender swap if there's not enough men or women fish in their school and it's a breeding season, they'll be like, all right, hey.
Yo, baby.
There's whole species of bug that are essentially, for lack of a better term, like asexual. They like clone themselves. Worms have two ends. One is male, one is female, like on the same worm.
Certain worms, yes. Yeah.
Certain worms, but you know what I mean, is like, there's so many even natural world examples of more than just two things.
Absolutely. And Brazy, Rudy, he has autism and he really likes numbers and time. So that's why he posts the time every now and then. So Misha says, my dive into learning about DID, so dissociative identity disorder, a while back has helped me understand much. And yeah, like
that's a fascinating
that is. I really
concept
want
of if you guys haven't heard of the channel now, they don't post anymore because on their specific journey, their treatment ended up being reintegration of the disassociated identities.
Mm-hmm.
So while they still do advocacy for DID, they don't talk about their life on their channel anymore.
Right.
But Multiplicity and Me started their journey using multiplicity within DID means embracing each identity as their own person.
Yes.
And letting them live authentically within your unit, like whether or not you have a partner or whatever. And studies
sorry, Davey, I had to. Woohoo! And with a praying mantis, she bites off his head.
Listen,
so,
I might be in my praying mantis era, so boys, watch out. Just kidding. I'm not a cannibal.
That's right.
But I was gonna say, like, that's another thing that has been proven by science and MRIs specifically is because of the way that DID works mentally, emotionally, and chemically in your body.
Yes.
You can have different autoimmune disorders, different mood disorders, different sexualities, different allergies,
yes,
different medical conditions between your identities. So say, like, I'm just going to use me as an example, but I don't actually have DID. But if I did, my current person, Indigo, has like 2 bad food allergies that I might need an EpiPen for, and asthma, and a handful of other things. Now, if I had another identity, that one could be completely healthy.
I have never heard of that. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I have never heard of that. It would be fascinating to study that and learn more about that because it's.
And I think you would need, unfortunately, that might be difficult.
Genetic testing.
Well, no, because they have people with DID have shared their own medical histories where they were like, I knew something was wrong because, like, I don't have this, but my body went to the doctor and said its name was this and had this issue. So I wonder if it has to do with, like, the trauma, how the trauma splits it. But it's medically fascinating, but I feel like you would have to know, A, that an adult had childhood trauma, or you would have to meet them as a child and kind of see them through that realization into adulthood to get a full picture. Because you know what I mean? Because you never know when a split can happen or what can cause them.
Well, the only way to get a true DID is through abuse. You have been traumatized to the point where one part of who you are has sparked off and has stayed sparked off in order to protect the initial host. And that's, here we go. Dissocia DID is the channel that opened my eyes. And here's the link. Thank you, Misha, for posting that. Helped me a lot, but triggered her as to why a person may have differing alters. Oh, that's great. Thank you, Misha, for posting that. That's fantastic. Okay.
I forgot I was a mod. I was up here doing the panel like, oh, can someone drop a link? Wait, I could drop the link.
Yeah.
But I think that there's two in the conversation is like, you could have I mean, I would assume that there's some trans people out there who might have DID.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But it's
And there
like,
may be people who have DID who don't consider them trans, but some of their alters are a different gender.
I
You know what I mean?
actually found out, I was a weird side tangent to the conversation, is in my 20s when I was disassociating, I was
Yeah.
also weirdly watching Disassociated and Multiplicity in Me, and I like had stumbled on
Huh.
like DID, and I was like, wait a minute.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have a different person,
Right.
but I totally feel like I resonate with the whole disassociating thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I found out with my therapist that I was disassociating. Because I went to her and I was like, I watched this channel and they talk about how they have like a different person in their head, but I don't have that. But I
Right.
have like missing time gaps and all
Yes.
this other stuff. Anyway,
Yes.
oh, Breezy, did we miss a question?
I do have personal deep questions about the partially transitioned person. So not a question that's been posted, but Brazy does have personal questions. So Brazy, if it is that you want to ask questions, you can email me at this email if you like, or Indigo, if you could drop your email in as a link.
Yeah,
Indigo would be like 99% better at that answer probably than me. Or let's see. Phoenix is here. Hello, Phoenix.
And the thing too is like I'm a big advocate for ask the people in your life how they view themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because even society has this incorrect notion that just because we're all lumped into a community umbrella that we all get along or believe the same things or don't have our own biases. And
yeah,
we're all human and humans tend to be imperfect people.
We have a tendency that way. Yeah, you could say that.
But that's why, when people say, oh, like, the haters, for lack of a better word, say like, oh, I don't know why you need like a whole month. I'm like, because people have hate crimes. Like Matthew Shepard's death was a hate crime.
Absolutely.
Brandon Tina's death was a hate crime.
Mm-hmm.
The many Pulse nightclub and other situations like this, that's why.
Yeah. Yeah,
The
you have a
Stonewall
month
riots
because the rest of the
happened.
world has the entire year.
And also, too, it's to say, there's things like the Trevor Project, which is this fantastic, I believe they're a nonprofit.
Fantastic, yes.
That was started by, I believe, by trans people.
It could be, yeah.
Or people from the community. And they do so much outreach. They try to get affordable resources and encourage communities to advocate and educate, because the thing is, people die.
Yeah, they do.
Either from self-delusion,
either from self or from others.
And
yeah,
if you value human life above anything else, and when you say unconditional love, it's one thing to say you accept who somebody is, but you have to accept it when it's uncomfortable as well.
Absolutely.
I was a tough time for me. Oh man, Mish, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, that's rough. That's really, really, really difficult. Yeah. I'm going to get you to talk for a moment. I have to step away for a sec.
Oh yeah. I'm just scrolling up chat. Give me a second. Yeah, it's really tough when you have to try to Google and keep track of your own symptoms and everything. That's definitely difficult. There is stigma against not everybody who is a therapist is knowledgeable about DID, and it's often kind of a longer wait list to find people who are knowledgeable. It's kind of the same with the trans discussion of finding therapists who are LGBT and trans educated to get evaluated by somebody who could actually help advocate for you. So I really, really feel for you on that. And I agree with Crystal with a K, because I did see that we had Crystal with a C here as well.
Having Crystal with the C here, I call her Phoenix, because
yes,
the other Crystal she's my girl.
She is. We love her.
Yeah.
But I would say that also, no, you're good. It's an important discussion to have, because like with any community, we're not just LGBTQ2S plus, right? We've got physical health conditions that could also add a layer of difficulty.
Oh, for sure.
We have mental health. There's a large majority, I don't want to say a large majority, but all of that also adds the complications on top of the society pressures, right? Like, we're people, we're multifaceted, we've got multiple issues. And now there are some people who say, I believe the term is, I don't remember what the term the community uses for, but when people try to gatekeep and say you have to get this to be considered X, it's like, no, you don't, because like Misha was saying, with their own journey with DID and the stuff they faced, is like, there could be restrictions that somebody has where they are not capable of nor have the ability to get a surgery or even go on hormones, and the most they can do is like bind or try to dress different or try to like
haircut.
And I think that being slightly more privileged than my trans friends has been wearing on me lately. I mean, obviously I have a litany of health issues, but on the surface, if I go to my doctor and I'm like, okay, they're like, okay, cool, let's try this. But if they start trying to say, like, we will pull funding from hospitals that provide XYZ. So I want to say right now, you guys, that gender affirming care, while that terminology is attributed towards the LGBTQ2S plus community a lot, it will not just impact them. Men get gender affirming hormonal care for like midlife crisis, or like a lot of people with severe emotional dysregulation get versions of hormone treatment that's classed as gendered, right? Because you're a male who's dysregulated, so you have different hormones than a female body. So now you have to go in and they have to give you this, or birth control is technically a hormone treatment.
Mm-hmm. So is menopause care.
So is menopause care.
Yeah. So
So the fact
totally...
that there's talks about pulling funding federally and putting it to the state level for this kind of care is insane. States already are going to be struggling based on them trying to repeal federally funded education.
Yeah, I mentioned at the beginning of this that it might get political simply because of the current political climate.
Yeah. Well, and how
I
can it not?
would not have voted for the orange guy, but at the same time, I'm not sure I could have voted for the other people either. You know, so it's one of those things where no matter who you voted for, there's no good solution.
And the thing is too is I say kind of like with all these boycotts, right?
Mm-hmm.
I dance with a couple devils because I know them and I need the convenience, not because I agree with the people who run the corporation.
Right.
And I think that's the thing is people seem to, my line personally, and this in my opinion is objective.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion to anyone watching, when you're talking about revocation of human rights, objectively, there is a wrong side of that argument, and that is to revoke a human right.
I would have to agree.
Human life is valuable, and to say that because people don't fit what you think they should, that they're less important is wrong.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where my passion comes from, is for the human rights, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as tough as it is, regardless of who's in the White House or on Parliament Hill, we still need to pray for them and know that the king is still on the throne, and the king that she's talking about is God. And we are unapologetically Christian here, but at the same time, I unapologetically love Indigo, who is also pagan. I also unapologetically love...
Got some Christian roots.
Well, exactly. I mean, like...
I believe in faith, not religion.
Right. And I believe in relationship with God versus simply the religious aspects of you have to go to this church, you have to do these symbols, these situations, all of this other stuff, right? Okay, now that we've talked about that.
Like, it teaches humanity, I think, early on when I was really involved in my church, and I'm technically double confirmed because I started Lutheran, got confirmed, but then by the time I hit high school, my church was mostly like older folks with very few kids. So I ended up going to the Presbyterian church, and they're like, well, we do confirmation at a different age here. And I was like, all right, let's do this again. But for me, it's like, it's like I said before, whether you're being an ally for LGBTQ2S plus, or your Indigenous friends, or your female friends, just ask them, like, who are you? Like, how do you want me to be there for you in this situation? Because I try to be level-headed, but the minute that I feel that someone I love is under threat.
Oh yeah. I become very unlevel-headed when I'm defending somebody I love.
Yeah. And that to me is something I'm trying to work on, because like I said, you never know when you leave your house who's behind the wheel of the bus. Like, who's your bus driver, who's your person making your latte. Like, you really don't know. And I try to give the benefit of the doubt, and at the same time having to think about the safety and lives of the people that I care about being under threat makes it difficult to not get like combative with people, because it's like I have to educate people who I meet, who I come out to daily.
Absolutely.
So sometimes I don't even, like, I'm not really out at my workplace.
But are you in? That's the question, is do you have to come out if you're not really in? You know what I mean?
You do. Because, I mean, like, for example, I have a couple friends who in their profession, they were stealth, right? Like, they transitioned and they were seen as the gender that they were shooting for. However, they're in advocacy work where if people know that they're trans, they're either able to professionally assist other people in their community, or they're seen as more trustworthy to other people from the community.
Yeah.
But that, again, that takes the prerogative out of their hands, right? They're like, I feel like terrible for not coming out to let that person know I was an ally, but I also didn't know if I would be safe around the other people around us if they heard me be like, hey, by the way, wink, you know?
Yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah.
It's definitely hard.
It is. It really is. And this is a really important conversation that more people need to have openly. I like that I'm able to have this conversation online where it will be permanent, because frankly, the internet never dies, right?
It doesn't. Yeah.
And that's something that I need to learn how to work with hashtags more, because I don't have hashtags for people to be able to search my stuff. I need to learn how to do that. But just one of those things where, oh, here we go. Exactly what Mish is just saying. Look at us, all of us in this chat. Once upon a time, many of us would never have felt comfortable being in the same room, let alone find each other as important as not being able to breathe without each other. Misha, I could not have said it better.
But we gave each other the time
to learn to love.
Again, though, to understand where that came from. Like, for example, I have a friend who is very Jesus-y. I say that with love. I know the reason behind that. She knows a lot of the details about how I came into my spiritual gifts, why I'm consider myself a Christian pagan, but not religiously Christian. So when we talk, she's like, I consider this a true story. And I'm like, well, I consider that a version of magic within the Bible, right? But we can understand like where each other came from, and don't try to convert each other.
Exactly. And that's exactly right. I will not apologize for what I believe. I will spout it from the mountaintops, but at the same time, I know I'm not going to convince you. You're not going to convince me. We'll just love each other through it.
Yeah. Or example, like a lot of thought processes believe in the power of intention, whether you call it a prayer, a spell, a thought, a vibe, whatever. Now, yes, I went to one of the best hospitals in my city for my thyroid surgery. Like, they're leading in cancer research in the state. But I also know that my boyfriend and his Buddhist community, and my parents in their Christian church, and my other witchy friends and their spells,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of my online friends at the time and their thoughts and vibes and whatever were coming at me during
Mm-hmm.
the time of my surgery. Specifically, people asked for the time it was starting, and I was like, well, I can't give you the time it's going to finish. I'm not actually that psychic when it comes to myself. But
Yes.
you know, like, I fully believe the reason why my complication didn't end up being like dangerously complicated, and why my recovery
Right.
went as well as it did, was that all of those intentions
Mm-hmm.
mixed with the professionalism of the doctors that were doing the surgery, and here I
Mm-hmm.
am.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so I think that's the other thing, is people know who they are.
Yeah.
And the more that I'm stubborn, so the more that someone tries to convince me that I'm not who I am, the more I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I'll show you. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know not
Yeah.
everyone's like that, but it's like, also,
Yeah.
identity doesn't have to be locked down.
No.
Like, sure, I came out at 21 and here I am at 34 and I still pretty much feel the same way, but I could wake up tomorrow or
Mm-hmm.
3 months or 10 years from now and feel totally different, but I would
Absolutely.
still be myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could use
Absolutely.
different terms. I could feel a different way about things. Like, I grew up 23 years thinking I was monogamous. Really trying to be in authentically monogamous relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And yet my brain and my heart were like, polyamory though.
Yeah.
Yes, you love person A that you're with, but you are
Mm-hmm.
falling in love with person B.
Yeah.
And it is real as your connection with person A. And
Right.
my confused brain that had just came out as bi was like, I don't understand why I can't just be normal.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But see, that's a fluctuating change. And I think if society was just more open to letting people be the way they are,
Mm-hmm.
and flex with that change, figure out how to safely legislate laws that allow certain benefits in certain scenarios,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we would be just much better for it, because we would be acknowledging where people are at. You
Mm-hmm.
can't bring somebody to understand something if they're not ready to understand it.
That's right.
Our brains definitely work that way.
There will be too much pushback inside your own brain and you'll just explode.
Yeah, love your neighbor as yourself. I mean, Confucius also has a version that says essentially the golden rule, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, treat others the way you want to be treated.
Right.
I don't know why anybody would want to be treated horribly.
They're masochists.
Mm.
Yeah.
But that's, you know, and that's another thing, is I think about this all the time, is when people like Barbie support their family member, it doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
what age, but especially
Mm-hmm.
a child, and that child now trusts you as their authentic self.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's just this whole other level that comes with that understanding, and to me,
That trust, that
I
unlimited.
feel like,
yeah.
And like, to me, I think the people who go into having children with the idea that they are making an autonomous being, right?
Yeah.
Like, people didn't used to name their kids till they were 2 or 3, mainly because survivability.
So they survive. Yeah.
Yeah. So they were like, don't name it yet. Let's see
Yep.
if it gets to its third year. But think about
Yeah.
like the ability to acknowledge in some kind of way this being has a choice.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Have you ever seen just the amazing outfits that happen when you let your 4-year-old niece pick their own clothes?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Is that she does not want to take off her bell dress, and we keep telling her, you like, there are just certain scenarios in which your
Mm-hmm.
princess dress is not,
It's not
you cannot
appropriate.
get into the pool in this dress. You have to put on a bathing suit.
Yeah.
And I told my sister they make really cute Belle bathing suits with
They
little
sure do.
mini skirts on them, and she's like, why would you tell her that? I'm like, I didn't tell her that, I told you that.
Mm-hmm.
But as an example, like, I think that's the beautiful thing is the more you're open to being educated and admitting that, I will be the first to admit I'm ignorant about a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I'm also willing to confront that and be like, okay, maybe this person isn't. And they could give me a book or a documentary, or I
Yep.
can build trust with them to later learn their story, to understand in a more full way, like empathize. I will say, I don't know that I would understand, for example, the harms of racism
Mm-hmm.
as acutely as my non-white friends, but
Oh, for sure.
reading their culture's history and hearing their personal stories, my empathy and my sympathy is so much
Yeah.
stronger.
Exactly.
And I think that's the thing is, you know, I believe we can get back to the more ready, open-minded world. But also in terms of America, we're a baby country compared to everybody else.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
We're in our French Revolution German phase, I guess, which is two very confusing dichotomies. But in terms of our government going through what it's going through, it's not shocking to me when you look at the longevity of like Britain and the amount of times it fluctuated between ideological upheaval, not just with religion, but it went from being a monarchy to being a pseudo democracy. I mean, they still have the figurehead of the king, but they have a parliament. People vote representatives.
And that's what Canada has.
Yeah.
We have a figurehead, and it is called a constitutional monarchy. So we have our own constitution, we have our own laws, so on and so forth. What I love about our constitution, our laws, is the guarantee of being able to be who you are. And that's what's being taken away right now in the States. And that's, I think, where we need to stop for this evening, because that is just way too big a discussion. We can get back together. I'm going to have Mandy.
Great to see you, Ned, and Davey.
Yes, absolutely.
I was so happy that Barbie popped in, because I know this is a topic that's really important to her. So I was really happy.
Yeah. So at some other point, we'll have you and maybe Mandy and perhaps Barb and her son, or at any point, any combination or individual of anything like that, because this is too big a conversation to have all in one night. And
it's multifaceted.
So multifaceted. So if and when you want to get in touch with me so that we can get together and actually discuss this on a regular basis, you can find me here at my email, or if you have me on Facebook, my Others Keeper at Facebook, that's where I am. Either way, we are good to chat. And regardless who you are, what you believe, as long as you're not out hurting people, I'm gonna be okay with you. It's if you're out hurting people. And even if you think you're so right and you know in your heart and you're passionate, but you decide to hurt this other person because I'm pointing, but
Not
on my
Abby.
screen, it looks like I'm not pointing at you.
You're good.
Sorry, Indigo.
You're good. The point still stands. Please don't hurt me. I'm really nice, I promise.
Ooh. Anyway, sorry. No, but if for example, let's use Indigo for an example because she's right here. They're right here. So if, for example, Indigo decided that she was...
It's okay. You're trying.
Doing it again. Okay, anyway, if, for example, Indigo decided that they were going to attack somebody because of who they voted for, who they love, what their skin color is, who they are in general, I would have a hard time with that. What I would do, though, is I would say, okay, if you feel the need to explain it to me, fine. If you don't, fine. Just don't do it here. Right? And that's where I have to say it's difficult because there are so many people in this community. I don't want to have division, but at the same time, I also know that there will be because there are so many people in this community. So anyway.
Yeah. And you have to take people where they are. And the last caveat I'll give is study the time period that people in your life grew up in.
Yep.
I'm young in comparison to many of the people that are in this community.
Mm-hmm.
But because of that and the fact that, my parents that raised me are 80 now.
Wow.
My sister's like 8 years older, in her 40s.
Yeah.
But because of that, there are mental, emotional blockages they have towards certain topics. And it's not because they are bad people or being stubborn. It's because the thing I'm trying to talk to them about created trauma for them because of the time period they were in.
Yeah.
So if you even look at your family line, like my grandmother, so my mother's mother would have been 20 in the 30s. No.
What year was she born?
Math is hard. I was born in 90. My mom, my sister is 82. And I believe my dad is 43.
Okay, so that would be 70, 82.
Yeah, so because we've come so far medically and socially in 2025. So I have to remember not everybody I'm speaking to is capable of taking in all that new knowledge and processing it within my lifetime.
Right.
And doesn't make them a bad person. It just means that there's going to be ideological friction, and it won't necessarily be their choice that that's happening.
Also needing to remember the difference between fact and opinion. Right? Political, that's an opinion. That is 100% an opinion. Religion is an opinion. Race is a fact. Right? So you're going to look at
imbalances in your body is a fact.
Absolutely. Yeah. All of that there's difference between fact and opinion. And as long as we can remember that and respect each other's opinions,
And
you don't have to agree with them. then the facts will work themselves out, right? So
Yes.
anyway, have a great night, everybody.
Have a great night,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Indy, for being here. Thank you that you are so open, and I love it. Yes, we will have to have these conversations again. Maybe we'll talk about some other time in April where we can get together, either a panel discussion or just one or two people.
Sure.
Because you know so much more about it than I ever will, and I want to be educated. So this is why.
And there's facets that I know Mandy knows more than I know.
Yeah.
I learned
and
something
as a
new
parent,
from them
Barb would know more
every
than
day.
either of you know about that, right? So.
Oh yeah, I'm not a mom.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, have a great night, everybody. I love y'all. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'm going to be doing devotional at 2:00. So I'll see y'all then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Some come with scars, some come with dreams. In this circle, we're more than what we seem. No judgment here, just voices to be heard. Through laughter, through the tears, we find every word. I'm my brother's keeper, I'm my sister's guide. Standing here together, with nothing left to hide. We lift each other up when the world feels torn apart. We're keepers of the flame, we're the healers of the heart.